It's an interesting train of thought, Christian just war tradition and reasoning. Do we see it playing out? I mean, do we see Christian just war tradition having an effect, or Christian just war reasoning having an effect in our military conflicts today? I mean, this goes back to the question of the influence of Christian and theological ethical reflection on the practical issues of the day. So, do we have examples where Christian moral reasoning changed the way a war might have been fought? Is this way of reasoning being taught in our military academies and in our institutions that produce our diplomats and our civil servants?
Measuring the effects of what Christians say about war would be quite difficult to do. Certainly, there have been Christians in the past who, speaking out of Christian just war tradition, have been critical of certain kinds of war. Classically, Francisco de Vitoria in the late 1500s, early 1600s, criticizing the Spanish conquistadors' war against the Indians of the Caribbean. Now, whether what he said had any effect, I can't judge, but the point here is that just war theory, Christian just war theory, isn't always only used to justify war. It can be used to criticize it. But is there any reason to suppose that Christian just war thinking has had an effect on the conduct of war? Yes, because the laws of war incorporate a number of features of Christian just war thinking. The notion of proportionality, that's to say, don't use military force when it is not when it is disproportionate, when it is counterproductive, when it isn't ordered to achieve a political end, and the principle of discrimination: never intend to kill non-combatants, because there's no point. There's no point. Both of those are in the laws of war. Certainly in recent conflicts, both in the military in the UK and in the military in the US, decisions to use military force, not least drones, are customarily run past lawyers. So through international law, Christian just war thinking does have an impact on decisions made in the military, certainly in the US and the UK. And the third thing to say is that just war criteria certainly recently have become part of public discourse. And you'll find the criteria being used even by people who don't know where they came from in Parliament or in the newspapers. And even if government was completely oblivious to them, their opponents in Parliament and journalists would force them to pay attention.
Do you know, are the just war criteria, is that a regular part of the education of military cadets at, say, Sandhurst here in the UK or West Point in the States?
I couldn't swear to it, but I'm pretty sure that they will be exposed to it. In fact, I have myself taught a course at the not at Sandhurst, but a course for senior officers at the Defence Academy here in the UK, and I lectured at West Point last March, where this kind of discussion is quite common.